Welcome, players, to Is a Game. Is a Game podcast is a one-of-a-kind Q&A inspired by word association that invites you to get inside the minds of world-class creatives, entrepreneurs, and marketers worldwide. So I'm Izzy, your host, also known as Isabella Di Stefano. I've been in social storytelling and creative for over 13 years, launching campaigns you may have seen, like In Bed with My Calvins, Barbie Life in the Dream House, and Selfie by the Chainsmokers. And I am so excited to introduce you to our guest and game player today, my dear friend, actor Christine Evangelista. Hi. Take it away. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
It's so great to be here. I'm thrilled to be doing this with you. Just seeing both of us on this creative journey that we're on and having met as teenagers. And here we are now. It's like, this is just so thrilling for me. Thank you so much for having me on.
I cannot thank you enough for being here. You are so dear to my heart. I have the fondest memory. So fun fact, Christine and I know each other from the pages of 17 magazine. Christine, I'll let you tell the story.
When I was 17 years old, I don't even know how old you were at the time when you started. The 17 magazine put an ad out in the Staten Island ad vans, which is where I'm from. And they had an open call for real girl models. And fortunately, I was cast. But for the next 3 or 4 years, I was consistently in every issue. And what their idea was to have all these girls from different ethnicities, body types, coloring, and we would be featured in each magazine and wore clothes that was good for our body or wore makeup that was good for our skin tone. And the idea was to just give more of an identity and accessibility to the readers to identify with all of these women. But over the years, meeting incredible young women through this magazine, including you, was so exciting, really made all of the shoots really enjoyable, and really gave us, at least for me, a real sense of empowerment. You know, I got to choose my own clothes or help choose my own clothes and my own makeup. And usually in this field, I think we both know people are delegating and tell you what to do and really don't give you much control. So this was the total opposite. And it was such a really unique experience and formative for me.
Atusa Rubenstein, yes, who is a mentor to both of us, really almost like meditated the creator economy, because now I think creatives do, with the platforms being so accessible, have more control than they ever did before. And authenticity is what people crave. And I think 17 magazine really pioneered that idea with the Real Girls casting. And it was such an amazing experience for me too. And we hadn't seen each other in years. And we were just talking about this. We were at a Super Bowl party and ran into each other.
The last place you'd probably see either of us is at a Super Bowl party.
Neither of us know anything about sports. We're more, girly. But I just there's a bond that we share. And I'm just so excited for everyone to get to know you a little bit better.
Thank you.
First of all, describe your job. What do you your official title to all of us?
I am an actress. I've been working in film, television, and theater for a very long time. I write, I sing, and I also design. A lot of the clothing that I wear on various television shows, I have a large hand in, and I'm developing my own line of intimates and lingerie. So I went to FIT in between the 17 magazine and working as an actress, always knowing something that I would do something creative in fashion. And fortunately, my job as an actress has given me so much leeway to do that. But then doing something of my own has been really exciting too.
I mean, you're working on a lot of different things right now. What's your favorite part about the job right now?
Right now, I'm on this show, Fear the Walking Dead, which I've been on for the past few years. And my favorite part about this job is, I get to embrace an entirely different side of myself, which is the tough, the very independent survivor, quite literally. And the show is, if you're familiar with it at all, it is not It is not based in fashion or makeup or hair. It is very, it's raw and it's real. And I think that has been liberating. From a clothing side, I wear essentially the same outfit every single day because it is an apocalypse. but there is a lot of creative control I'm allowed with that outfit. But just day to day, embracing like my natural physical state is something that actresses don't really get to do very often. So that has been really exciting for me, just to be my raw, real self and, not care how ratty my hair is or what my skin looks like that day. It's just very authentic.
And it's authentic.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, the show being about this apocalyptic reality, is there anything that you're seeing like back in real life that you feel is sort of foreshadowed in the show a little bit?
It's interesting you asked that question. It's a great question. So before the pandemic hit, there was this scene that I filmed. My character originally started out on The Walking Dead, and her husband, her longtime partner, they've been together since before the apocalypse. Him and I started on that show. And in the story, we hadn't seen each other in years. And there's this moment where they reunite and they embrace, and it's really emotional. And it's emotional for the viewers. They haven't seen these two characters together in a long time, but we filmed that scene in 2019, and it aired in 2020. And when it aired in 2020, the unity and the hugging and the embracing took on an entirely different meaning because people had not seen their loved ones in so long. So what started out as these two longtime lovers just seeing each other again, it took on such just a deeper reality because everybody at that point has been disconnected from their families and their loved ones.
Well, we are gathered here today to play this game because I'm sort of over the traditional interview. I'm really interested in kind of getting inside people's brains a little bit. So I created this word association game. This week, I thought of a list of words that were inspired by like what's going on in the world and what's relevant and you. And they're on these cute little cards. Ooh. And so I'm going to have you select one and then I'll say the word. Okay. And then unfiltered, you say the first thing that pops into your head and then we'll talk about it. New York.
Gosh. Oh my gosh.
You're thinking too much.
The first word came to mind was family.
Tell us about your family.
So I grew up in New York. I'm like third generation New York City. My whole family's from here. We moved here as immigrants from Italy. So I think of New York as my family. My heart is here. My soul is here. I love it. But the more I think, the more that word, New York is it. I think it's such a difficult place to live, especially if you didn't grow up here. And I think because of the difficulty of that, it creates these really strong bonds with our friends or people that we've met here. The friends that you make here ultimately become your family because you're in these like figurative trenches with each other because it's so hard. And I think that's something that really brings us or bonds us really close together because the external life here is so challenging at times that you really need sort of these intimate relationships with your friends. And I think that inevitably becomes your family.
I totally agree with you. How have your friendships changed since the pandemic?
My friendships, I remember the first time I really wanted to go see, I was yearning to go see my friends, and it was in the middle of 2020. I hadn't seen them in a while, and they were all off with their families. So it was like kind of a big deal to them, like who are you bringing into the circle sort of thing, because all of us were with our families, and the last thing we wanted to do was give something to them, especially our parents that are older or immunocompromised. But I think it was hard on some of my other friendships, people that I wasn't able to see so much. It certainly strengthened some friendships and kind of dissolved or started to dissolve some others. And I think that was like just a sad but true realization. I think, when you are really forced to limit yourself to a certain amount of people who are those people? I remember at first it was one of those things where we're going to call each other all the time and we're going to Skype and we're going to do play readings or whatever it was we were going to do. And they started to realize like that was kind of this unrealistic expectation that we had in the beginning of the pandemic. But I do think it was hard. I think it was really kind of hard, and because I did really need to select who it was I was spending most of my time with, and that really was, for the majority of it, like my family.
Yeah, I think it changed values for a lot of people.
For sure, yeah. We weren't going out as much. So all the friends that I would socialize with and go out and party with, like that wasn't, I mean, the truth of it, it wasn't really rooted in the kind of relationships that I think are more emotional, or you need it, and that's that way. And I think it exposed a lot of truths around relationships.
That really resonates with me. I think that my relationships have become, not that they weren't authentic in the past, at least for me, but I definitely like really require that authenticity to be reciprocated.
Yeah.
And it's really important to me as a value that I have like strong, real bonds with people. I think especially the worlds we live in, there's a lot of
for sure, right,
surface relationships.
Yeah. You wanted things that are, as you said, authentic, that are rooted in something deep, that you could rely on, that you trust. Yeah, I think that's something that, especially in New York City, especially in our field, we're sort of running around and we meet new people every single day. And the thing is, how are you going to spend the limited amount of time that you have, or safety in the world of the pandemic? That small window, like who are you going to pick? And I think it's very important to have like your core set of values and friends that are aligned with that.
I will say, though, and I don't know if you had this experience, I mean, we reconnected during the pandemic. What happened brought a lot of people, because everyone was, like, doing these bingo FaceTime. That was my thing. This bingo Zoom, like, to bring people together.
Yeah.
But I started, like, FaceTiming with old friends from London, like, people I hadn't spoken to in years, because everyone was home and kind of, like, on this same monotonous schedule of just staying home. But New York has changed a lot, too. A lot of people have left, which has been a bit bizarre for me. I mean, you spend a lot of time out of the city, right?
I did leave for 3 years after the pandemic, and I just moved back this past February.
How does it feel?
So I came back. They always come back. The real ones do. And I mean that with friendships also.
True.
Yeah,
So
I did miss New York very much. I did.
Okay, next word.
Okay. Dun, dun. Oh, wait, let's do this one. This one's calling me for whatever reason. This top one.
Ooh. Muse.
Think of Audrey Hepburn.
Tell me about Audrey Hepburn.
I just think she is beautiful, graceful, and really, I mean, a muse for film, fashion designers, and really came from hardship and maintained a level of grace and elegance and beauty. It's what's that famous quote that she has? It's like, beautiful women are happy. And I think about that a lot. And whenever I feel beautiful, it's because I'm actually happy. And I think those are the same things.
It's much more internal than it is external.
Yeah, and as beautiful externally as she was, it was her internal that I think made her so beautiful. And so, I mean, such a muse.
Is there someone like modern today who you feel emulates that for you?
Yeah, I look at Linda Evangelista, somebody that was so obviously beautiful, beautiful woman, but her beauty was because she was such a chameleon, and she had both this femininity but this androgynous energy about her that made her so versatile, so exciting, so cinematic. And I loved watching her, and clearly such a muse for just generationally, fashion, art.
I loved seeing her in the Marc Jacobs show.
Yeah, yes, but then going back to now and her fighting with her physical beauty and all the stuff that she's dealt with and had a really hard time. And what's so beautiful about this is, she's been struggling with this for years. And it wasn't until just recently this past year that she came out publicly with it, and the amount of love and support and respect that she gained. And now she's resurfacing all over again. And all she really needed to do, well, obviously, accept what she was going through, but be honest about it.
Yeah.
And her beauty is so much deeper than her physical. I mean, she's still obviously beautiful and one of the most beautiful people in the world. But now we have such a different appreciation for her and respect. And I just love, I have, her latest Vogue on my coffee table because I'm just so proud of her, of staying in her truth and embracing this whole new side of her. I love the interviews that she's doing now. We're hearing her point of view more and her voice. And that's been a result of, I guess, really the media. It wasn't so much. You look at the 90s, the 80s, we didn't really listen to the models. We loved to watch them, but now we want to listen to them. And I'm so happy that she's resurfacing in this new arena because she's very funny. She's very funny, very endearing.
I think what's so amazing about what Linda has done is that she's been really forthcoming about the fact that also, it took a really long time, I'm sure, to come to terms with the fact that the thing that had driven her career, right? Like her instrument, something was wrong with it. And so she had to figure out what her instrument was because it wasn't actually ever that thing. Yeah. It's much more deep than that. Mm-hmm. And it's about the personality that she has inside.
Yeah. That's a really interesting way to phrase it, to be so praised and celebrated for her physicality. Was it the physicality all along? Yes, she has incredible bone structure and she's quite literally a chameleon in that sense. But there was a spirit in her images. There was something that was much deeper than the surface, which made everything come so alive. That is the true artistry in her work and in the work of all professional models. But to be so praised and celebrated for the physical and then have something happen, whether it's, just baseline women getting older, right? That is for some sad reason difficult and, especially in the entertainment industry, not something that's rewarded, praised, or really just have longevity with. But when we're able to connect with these women for their life, their journey, health, everything, it creates a much deeper connection and respect. And now we are seeing that spirit. And I think that's what everyone's so excited to see. I think everybody baseline is struggling. Everybody feels like they're not good enough. Everybody's fighting against something. And the more that we can see that in each other and realize that we have that within ourselves, I think it just creates a much deeper bond.
And I think as a model and as an actor, I'm sure you know this well, the icons, they have a personality that sort of transcends their own body. Yeah, they might be beautiful also and very attractive, but there's something more than that. And it made me think of an acting school, this exercise where and I don't know if you've ever done this, but we used to watch TV or movies on mute. Mm-hmm. And then we'd watch ourselves on mute. Yes. And you could see when you were just fucking around and not being genuine and basically bad acting. Yeah. And then the real superstars, you didn't even need to have the sound on.
It's so, back when I was, when auditioning was on VHS, when I was still submitting a VHS tape, and then I think that was for a small window of time, but certainly DVDs. We were submitting DVDs for my auditions. And my manager, I would be a teenager, and she would sit me on the floor of her office on 57th Street, and I would have to watch over and over and over again my auditions on mute. And see any mannerisms that I was doing consistently, breaking those physical habits, and just the art of active listening and what that was like. And when you remove the sound and the stuff and just watching the eyes and the body, seeing where we keep where I would keep stresses. I hated doing it at the time. It was humiliating and excruciating to watch myself in general. Forget about mute, but it exposes a lot. It exposed a lot of truths.
Do you watch yourself a lot now?
Oh, no. No. I mean, now, because of the pandemic, we are doing more self-tapes. Well, only self-tapes. And as a New York actress, that was something I did a lot anyway. I spent a lot of time in California. But for the majority, I was here in New York putting myself on tape before that was even really a big thing. So I was forced to watch myself a lot, and I guess I still do now, but it's one of those things where, especially with the auditions, I do it, I pick which scenes I like the best, and then I send it off, and I don't ever watch it again.
That's good. Well, because the toughest critic is yourself.
Yeah. In fact, I have to redo my reel right now, and it is such a daunting task because I have to go through scenes of myself and watch them, and I don't want to do that.
And you don't want to.
No.
And prioritize them. And does anyone help you with that?
Yeah, of course. I have a guy that's hired, my agent says, but then I'm like, I don't like the scenes that they picked, so I have to go back in and figure out which, time marks to pick from with the scenes.
And I'm curious now, as an actor, with the reel, you create the reel to position yourself as a certain kind of character, right? That you want to get.
I'll have different reels for different types of characters for sure. And then, ultimately I have my most recent work, which is over the past few months on one, 2-3 minute clip. And then I'll have a more dramatic reel or a comedic reel. And then you kind of submit them in conjunction with the audition tape just to give them more context a lot of the time.
Do you feel like you have a squad of people that you're all on the same page? Or a lot of artists speak about, it's I think of Kesha or Pink or even Katy Perry. And they're
musicians for sure.
They wanted me to be something that I'm not. Even Anna Faris talked about this. So do you feel that's in conflict a lot?
I've been so fortunate. That woman that had me sit on the floor and watch all the things on mute, she's been my manager since then. So I've been with her.
That's amazing.
I'm almost 36. I've been with her since I was a teenager. So I trust her. She gets me, and she wants me to grow and evolve just as much as I do. She's certainly not trying to limit me. But I that's a manager, and that's the job of a manager. An agency, I think, is much more interested in, yes, your career, but financial gain in a lot of ways, which could really put you in a bubble or in the same sort of pattern, and you don't really feel like you're able to expand, or maybe you just feel like you're stagnant in whatever way. But that is, again, who is in your circle. Do you have a team of people that are working together? Your manager, your agent, your publicist, whomever. Are they working together with you? Do you feel like you have a voice? And I think, man, as artists, as women, I think we could all understand the power of no. And when you tell somebody, no, this is not what I want to do, I think that it is so hard to say. It is so hard to say as an artist because you feel like you're never going to get an opportunity again. You have to take what's given to you. It's hard as a woman because you want to be polite and you don't want to be ungrateful for the opportunities that you're given. You don't want to be deemed as difficult or challenging. But the power of no is very strong. And I think ultimately people will respect you for your decision, especially if you're firm in your belief. And I think also the universe will reward you because you're living in your integrity and in your truth, and that's what you have to stand by. So I do think that. I bet it's easier said than done.
Now I must know. When was the last time you said no?
I mean, there's auditions that come in a lot that I know at this point in my career, I've been doing this for a long time. I know not just what I can do well or what I want to learn how to do well, but I know I know what's right for me. And I'm tired of feeling that of only doing things because I feel desperate. And feeling like I'm not going to get another job. And listen, that comes in a lot. But saying no to a television show that I don't feel like would be very good for me, that has happened recently. Yeah, for sure.
I admire that.
It's not easy to do, especially when you need money.
No, that's something I've really struggled with. Yeah. I think that I've, definitely, in a perfect world, there's a lot more that I would say no to, but it's interesting to hear you talk about owning your power in this way that I really, really admire.
And trusting yourself. That's what I went on this meditative journey, and I had to come up with a, what is my intention for what I was about to experience? And I just kept saying, I just want to trust myself because I know in my gut what's right for me. But sometimes my head or my heart at times is in conflict with it. And just listen that I know what's right for me, whether that's in relationships that I've stayed in way past their expiration date or let things that you've let fly by and in romantic relationships or friendships because you just weren't trusting your gut, like, this doesn't feel right, or this job doesn't feel right. And yeah, you might not take the job and you might have, like, in our industry, maybe 3-4 months where you're unemployed, but then that one job comes in and you're like, thank God, because I'm available for this, because if had I done that, I wouldn't have been available. Yeah. So it's just about, again, trusting yourself, which is so hard to do. It's so hard to do. I went on a meditative journey about it. But it is the road to ultimate freedom.
When you say meditative journey, are you referring to ayahuasca?
I have not done ayahuasca, but I'm going to.
Okay.
I am
terrified.
Very soon,
I'm terrified.
Actually. No, this was a psychedelic journey for sure. It wasn't ayahuasca.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm terrified of these whole
journeys. I do. I love plant-based medicine. Really into it. Expanding your mind and level of consciousness. Yeah, but I haven't done ayahuasca, but I want to.
Ooh, okay. Maybe we'll go on that journey together.
I'll let you know when I decide to, when I feel like I'm ready.
Okay, your next word is pit.
Pit? Oh, pit. I think, based on what we talk about, I think about the pit of our stomach. And that goes to our gut in trusting that and trusting our intuition. That's what I think of, right?
Is there a defined time in your life when you feel like you got to a place where you do trust your gut? Because you certainly, I'm sure, haven't forever, and neither have I. And I think recently I've become much more confident in trusting my gut, but I'm curious when that happened for you.
I spent the majority of my life, certainly all of my adolescence, not feeling like I was confident enough to make, or who am I to say or to have these feelings, or I just lacked a lot of confidence. And then I think that innately was the ability to trust myself. And I think, not listening to myself and not feeling like I received the validation that I needed when I was a child. I mean, we could go into that a little further, but I think it really was last year. Last year, towards the end, I think there was a lot of things came up, and the timing of my life. For sure, I think being in my 30s and starting to feel like, okay, I have to start doing something differently in my life and in my relationships, and because things aren't working out the way that I really feel like they should, or I want them to. Mm-hmm. And certainly, I'm sure all the time alone during the pandemic sort of like pushed myself to this precipice, but it was the end of last year. I felt my anxiety was an all-time high. I was erratic. I did not feel good. I did not feel like I looked good. I just wasn't happy. And something happened around the holiday season, and I was like, I need to figure this out. And I actually went to, you ever hear of the Hoffman Institute?
Why have I heard of that?
It's been around for a really long time, since like the 60s or something, but it's a week-long intensive program that helps you, first of all, identify, but then break patterns of behavior, things that you've learned, things that are historical throughout your family, things that you picked up in life, and sort of break those habits.
Sign me up.
It really is about one of the things I realized there with the group that I met there was like, we all are struggling with something. We all feel like we're not good enough. And the more that we realize that we could connect with each other based on that, the less we feel alone. And then ultimately it goes down to, trusting yourself, that there's nothing wrong with you. Like, everyone feels this way. And if we could connect on that, there's just so much more room for growth. Anyway, I went there in January of this past year, 2022. And since then, I think there's just been this cascade of, I think ultimately, like I'm still learning. Trust me, I'm no guru by any means, but I am taking control over my life in a way that I didn't before, and accountability. And again, like just learning to expand my mind.
So first of all, was everyone very different?
Oh, yes. I mean, different age ranges. We're from different parts of the country. Some people came from different parts of the world.
Wow.
I think there was like maybe 17 or 20 of us in this week-long intensive, and they do them, all the time. And of course, you leave with such a deep connection to everybody because
such a bond.
Their truths. Yeah. And it's not even though you're not going through these stories of your life and what happened. It's really nothing about that. In fact, nobody knows your last name, your age, or where you're from until the end of the week.
Wow.
Yeah. So we don't know anything. And then we introduce ourselves to each other. And then it's like, whoa. So all week you're trying to guess, like, what do you do? Where are you from? What's your story? And you don't know until the end of the week. It's fascinating. You really bond on like a very deep level. But that for me was I had to break down enough to really need to pick myself back up and think, I'm going to do something I've never done before, and this is it. And I quite literally wrote to them in a letter of desperation. I think I was on a wait list for like 5 months ago, and I wrote to them. I'm like, hey, I'm going through a really hard time right now. If you have any cancellations, let me know. And there happened to be a slot. So I jumped in.
That speaks to the fact that I think that even if something seems impossible or is like a huge mountain, but you have just a chance to like, you have an email address or
that's always been me. Not just an email address. Like I'll go on somebody's Instagram and find who they follow and then message them.
Exactly.
And see who they follow.
Exactly.
Like, I mean,
we're stalkers.
Yes. Fine. I was just going to say, I'm a New York Italian girl. Like,
we're both Italian.
I can figure anything out.
Yeah.
But I do believe that. Like I've always been like a hustler in that sense where like nobody ever offered me anything. I always had to figure it out myself. Even this fashion line that I'm creating. It's like, I mean, yes, I went to FIT, but I didn't study fashion design. And I don't know how to do this, but I will talk to anybody that listens. I'll sit on a plane and I'll talk to the person next to me about it. And they're a photographer or they work in marketing. And I just get these like little sorts of things to grasp from. Again, it is being firm in what you believe, being passionate about what you think and what you want to do. And then connecting with people to help you along the way.
And I think being open to learning too.
100%,
because you saying like, I don't know how to do any of these things, but you will figure it out. Oh, yeah. Like you totally. Yeah.
Nobody knows what they're doing.
Nobody knows what they're doing.
Nobody knows. And the more you realize that, you're like, aha.
Yeah.
I got this.
Yeah, exactly. It makes me think of like, it was like one of my first jobs and someone said, now, by the way, I am a deck master. I love slides. Yeah. I speak in slides. Take it very seriously. But I remember the first time, I can't remember exactly where it was, but I was asked to put together a presentation. I literally had no fucking clue what I was doing.
Yeah.
I had no fucking clue. I'm like Googling. There was this website at the time, I can't remember. It was like a database of presentations. Mm-hmm. But like I was like, how do people take what's in their head and make it look pretty on their, but then I just like self-educated and figured it out.
It reminds me of my favorite quote that is, you are not limited by your resources, but your lack of resourcefulness.
Yes.
And it's like, no, I didn't grow up with high education. I did not grow up from a wealthy family. I didn't grow up with anything that would give what you would think to be the resources to do something like that. But fuck, man, am I resourceful? I will figure it out. I will work hard. I will email. I will put together my own reel. Whatever I have to do to feel like I am doing the best that I can.
And that's so true. It's even people who are born with an abundance of resources.
Yeah, they don't know anything. Those people are just the least.
If they're not resourceful, they're not going to get anywhere.
Totally.
Okay, pick another card. Mentor.
I think of Myrna Jacoby, my manager.
Okay, tell me about Myrna.
She is older Jewish mother that I never knew I needed. I mean, she's 5 foot, maybe 1, pint size, decked in Chanel, and she will go for blood. Like, she is, she's a go-getter, and against all odds, she has created such a career for herself, but has really surrounded herself with, I think, clients that she loves. And I've been with her for so long for that reason, because I feel this tremendous respect, mutual respect. And I think watching her and her work ethic, and again, her resourcefulness, has really instilled that in me. We get no's all the time. I've gotten no's all the time. I've heard no's maybe 1 trillion times more than I've heard the word yes. But anytime we hear no, she'll say to me, she's like, go get him, Tiger. And we'll figure out a way to do it. We will make another tape. No, we don't want to see her for this audition. And I will read the script myself and pick scenes because they haven't given me the sides, and then put myself on tape for it. And fuck, man, I've gotten jobs that way. And
I love that.
It is like just that scrappy nature of, again, believe in yourself and work hard. And it doesn't matter if you're going to get rejected 1 million times. It's just building that stamina and sharpening your skill set. And really, it's and I think
and
that's
not
what it takes.
taking no for an answer.
Yeah.
Like,
what do they know?
I don't take no, really. Like, you say no to me, I'm like, okay, I'm going to find a different way.
Yeah, I'm going to find another way. I'm going to go to a different line. I'm going to call another number.
Yeah, I'm going to tap into this person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make it pink and see what happens.
Yeah, what do you have to lose?
No, like, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to change it so you say yes,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
And that goes back to believing in yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's interesting that we've both had this experience, because we're around the same age, that it's only in the last year or so that I've really started to come into my own in that way.
Yeah.
And, like, feel confident in, like, my vision. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I read the great quote, and I'm not going to quote it directly because I don't have a photographic memory, but basically the idea of it is that if you don't believe in your own vision, no one else will.
Yes. Right. You know, I mean, you have to take the chance on yourself. You have to invest in yourself. If you don't invest in yourself, no one else is.
Yeah.
I know that from experience.
Yes, I completely agree with that. Okay. Pick a card.
Ooh, these cards.
Ooh.
So fancy.
Peak.
Ooh. Oh, man. What is my peak?
No, what was the first thing that you thought of when I'm going to say it again, peak.
Peak. I haven't hit it yet. I feel like I haven't hit it yet. What is my peak? And I think of things in my life that I always thought I wanted, right? Like it is, once I do this, I'll be happy. You know, it's, I'm going to be on the lead on a television show. And I was lead of a television show for the first time that the show finally got picked up. I was on, award shows, billboards in Times Square. Like, this is what could have been or should have, and it was it was exciting time. And I felt like I was starting to come into my own, but it didn't give me full happiness. Like, what is my peak? And I could only hope that I spent a lifetime trying to reach it. I think giving yourselves the joke that people have peaked. You peak in high school, you peak with this. It's like, I don't ever want to peak. And I feel like even then I didn't. It's just been a journey of continuing to climb. And you might fall down and you just have to keep going up.
Peaks and valleys.
To the top again. Yeah, that's what sort of makes life.
That's the journey.
Right, but that is it. I don't ever want to feel like I peak, because it feels like it's like, what does it mean to have a life that is fulfilling, where you're always growing, you're always learning, and you're always climbing, and you're always challenged. And that's the kind of life that's what I want to live.
For me, I think it's good to always have a peak in mind. Like, what's your peak now?
What is my peak now? The first thing that I think of when you ask me that, where do I want to go? Continuing to challenge myself as an actress, but I as I'm, about to turn 36 in a few weeks, you're coming to my birthday party.
For the birthday party.
I think about being a woman, and I do really want to have a family. I do really want to have children. And that is something, I will always fight for my creativity and my work as an actress. But this is something that I really this is what I'm thinking about a lot. And I really want to get to that point in my life that I feel I'm ready to do it, whichever way that is. Because I have a lot of, fortunately, there's a lot of different variations that women can have children now. And that's been on my mind a lot.
Oh my God, ditto.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about, I'm baby obsessed.
Yeah, and that's why this whole self-exploration and really figuring out myself and going back to Hoffman is really being objective with my behavior patterns, everything, because I want to create the best environment for my child and, give them things that I feel like I didn't have and all of that, and being really secure in myself and self-aware in order to do that. But
I've been thinking a lot about kids too. It's funny because I'm so excited and I really want it, but I'm scared too.
Oh, it's terrifying. It's terrifying. And I ask all my friends with children, I'm like, what was this like? Is it normal to feel this way? They're like, oh my God, I was so scared. You're scared during the pregnancy. I mean, it's a constant, of course it's a scary thing because it means so much.
Do you think about how you want to change your life if and when you do have children?
I would love to stop going out so much, yes. But I think part of that is the searching. We're searching, we're looking for a partner, or we're looking, it's a distraction. I mean, my happiest self is home cooking for somebody that I love.
You're Italian.
I'm Italian. What do you expect?
Come on.
But that is really, truly when I'm happiest. And I just know, if I'm with my child, that would be, I think that's something.
What was your family dynamic like?
I am the oldest. I have a younger brother. Both my parents worked a lot. I come from a super working class blue collar family. My dad worked for the fire department. My mother's a nurse. They're both retired now. But there was it was a chaotic household for sure. We were they were working way too hard. We're Italians, and it was just an intense environment for sure.
Same.
But they did, I think, an extraordinary job on me. And my brother's so great. I have so much respect for him. So I appreciate what my parents were able to do with what they had. And I feel like they gave me so much more than what they had. And I expect to do the same.
Is your brother also in the arts?
He's a very talented musician. He works for He works for a private equity, but in sustainable farming.
Oh.
Yeah, so he travels around the country and converts farms into organic farms, which I think is an art in itself, for sure.
And when you were living in that chaotic household, which I too came from a chaotic household, I think it's an Italian thing. We need to work on that, people. But is what you dreamed of then in line with where you are today?
I was always a very active, hyperactive kid, dancer. I was always filming videos of myself and writing scripts and enlisting everybody on my block and my family to be in them. I was always, always, always doing that. Very much a departure from my parents. Bless them, but they're not the most
creative.
No. Because they couldn't afford to be. Yeah. And I get it. Like they gave me such a foundation that I was able to just, be the kite that I am and go. But there was a lot of resistance. They were not comfortable with what I wanted to do. They
Same.
wanted me to, get a degree in something else. They were worried. I think my mom wanted me to be a speech therapist for a very long time.
Okay.
I had the thickest New York accent too. I was like, of all things. I don't know why but I think they were just, they live with a lot of fear. And I think that was really hard for me. And that's why I think I became so independent very young, because I couldn't listen to them, because I knew that I knew in my gut.
Wrong.
Yeah. I knew I trusted myself.
At what point did they or maybe they still haven't, but like, did they finally like acknowledge?
They always worry. They always worry. They're worried now that I'm not married. It's like they always worry about something that I'm not doing.
Also an
at this
Italian
point, thing. It doesn't even, whatever. At what point did they finally?
Like, did they finally one day acknowledge like, oh yeah, you were right?
You know, there's a story. I had been working for years at this point and supporting myself, not comfortably, but doing it.
Yeah.
And my father had just retired. So it wasn't that long ago. And he came to set to visit me. And I had the transpo driver like pick him up in the van at the airport. And then they picked me up and then they drove me to set. And we drove onto the studio lot. And they happened to be filming on the studio lot. So they were filming outside. And so they stopped filming because our van was coming in. And I get out and everyone's like waving at my father because they knew he was coming in. And my dad's waving. And then I bring him up to my trailer. And we go in my trailer and I go to the bathroom to go change, get in my wardrobe. And he's sitting on the couch. And my father is a Italian mechanic from Queens, like super tough guy, okay? And he's sitting on the couch in my trailer, and I come out of the bathroom, and he's crying. And he looks up at me, and he's like, you did it. He's like, you did it. He's like, everyone's here for you. You did it. I'm like, no, Dad, we're all here together. And he's like, but you did it. He's like, you're a star. And it was like just the sweetest moment ever.
Oh, I just got chills.
Yeah,
That's
it was like this
amazing.
really it was very sweet. It was very sweet. That was the first time. He was always proud of me whenever I would get a job, of course. But it was the time when I think he realized the labor that goes into it, like being on a set, seeing the amount of people that are there, and just how unglamorous it really is. But still, I think it just was this moment of realization for him. He's like, wow, like you've been doing this for, 10, 15 years.
That's
you
amazing.
Yeah.
Take your parents to work day. That needs to be a thing. Right? Like, I mean,
did you do the take your child to work day with your mom? Because I used to do that.
With our
parents.
I'm pretty sure that my mom or something.
That was like a thing in
No,
New
it was a
York.
thing.
It was a thing.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
I feel like, I wonder if they still have that in school.
But like, take your parents to work.
So great.
Should be a thing. Because like, how many parents, like my parents literally 14 years later, 13 years, still don't understand what I do. They still don't understand. Like my dad will send me job listings of like digital marketing. And I'm like, Dad, like, and he's like, oh, this looks good for you. I'm like, Dad, I'm not a digital marketer.
That is so funny.
But I'm like, I do many other things.
This is a great idea.
Right?
I think this is a great idea.
It should be a new program.
It should be, especially as like really think about it as technology and things so beyond what they grew up with or their capacity, what they understand, the way things are moving. It would be really great to do that. Yeah. I think that's a new hashtag.
Okay, take your parents to work day. I'm a TikTok. We're coming for you. Okay, so I have some rapid fire questions to ask you. Mm-hmm. What's your superpower?
My superpower, I would say my loyalty. I would say that is, to a fault. Mm-hmm. I'm learning, but I think that call me Italian, but I have like this this real sense of loyalty, of showing up, of doing the right thing by people, being a good friend, being a good daughter, a good partner. Really, I think that would be for sure something that I really value about myself, and I value in other people.
Me too. Mm-hmm. It's really important. I'm also loyal to a fault.
Yeah.
But I think I'd rather be someone who's like too loyal than not, like non-committal.
For sure. It's someone that cares, that shows that's consistent, stands by their word, and somebody that you could trust. Somebody tells me something, like I want them to know that they could trust me.
Exactly.
And I'm happy for them. I'm proud of them. Like you name it, anything that goes down in the sense of loyalty. But knowing that somebody has my back and I have theirs is something that that's important to me.
Okay, close your eyes. Mm-hmm. Imagine you are 20 again. What do you see right in front of you?
Oh my God. At 20? Mm-hmm. At 20 years old,
what do you see right now?
I see myself washing heads. I was an assistant in a hair salon when I was maybe 19, 20. And then I think it was around like 2021, I started working for this short-selling stock company that was quite literally like the Wolf of Wall Street, for sure.
Really?
That was my life. Man, do I have stories.
Give us one of your best stories.
I have crazy stories. Oh, man. Driving around in this van with my boss. I mean, at Fox, CNBC, driving around to all of these locations so he could go on news broadcasting, but then throwing these, me and my coworker throwing these, bi-monthly parties that were very over the top.
Elaborate.
Very elaborate.
Eccentric.
Like, would probably be in the news today.
And meanwhile, from meeting to meeting, he's doing bumps of blow.
It was crazy. But I just remember myself, 20 years old, doing anything that I could, working so hard. I think I was going to FIT at the time. I was working in a hair salon. I had just moved into Manhattan. I lived in an apartment. My bedroom, I think, was 7 by 8. It fit like a twin bed that I stored everything under, and then I had a dresser, but you could only sit on the bed to open the dresser. You couldn't open it any other way. And that was
classic.
My apartment. No real refrigerator. It was like a mini fridge and a 5th floor walk up on 7th Street. Yeah, it was tough.
Living the dream.
Yeah, and luxury. It was so expensive.
It
was so expensive.
The price of luxury.
Yeah. Also, like, it keeps going up. Like, you can't catch it. Like, rents just keep going up. And it's like, if I think about what I spent now and versus, like, anyway.
It's insane. There's actually this TikTok where it's like, this guy goes up to people on the street and they're like, what do you pay for rent? And he's like, they tell it. And then he's like, oh, can I come over to your apartment?
Oh, yes, I've seen that. And then you go in and it's like.
I'm seeing some people who got some great deals.
Great deals. Yeah, some rent stabilized stuff. Yeah. I'm like, what do you know? But then also, I so appreciate the ingenuity of these apartments because they're all like, this is a big apartment, but those they're so small, and how like they've somehow made the bed in this sort of loft style.
Way too organized for me.
I know.
Like, I could never.
For sure.
I could never. I wish I was that way. But yes, what people have done with these spaces, the amount of stacking,
you make it work.
Stuffing, and it's really
you
impressive.
have to put things away then. It's like, that's my biggest problem.
That's my biggest problem.
Yeah, for sure.
Is that just like a creative thing?
I don't know. Like, nothing has ever, I'm like, it's like, I'm not a dirty person, but fuck, am I messy.
Me too. Me too.
Totally. Yeah.
Totally. So what advice do you have for a young woman who's trying to get into basically being on screen, in front of the camera or on the stage?
Working for yourself, essentially, which is what it is, being an artist, private contractor, whatever you have to write on your taxes, I don't even know. It requires so much consistency and so much discipline. And when you don't have to show up for a job at 9 o'clock in the morning, there's really no one holding you accountable except yourself. And I think going back, if I had to revisit myself as a teenager or 20 years old, it would be create a schedule for yourself. No, you're not working today. You might not be working next week. You probably won't even be working next month. But what are you doing every single day to get to the place where you are ready for the opportunity when it arises? You're going to get the job. And it would be create your own schedule, stick to it, consistency, hold yourself accountable, read plays every day. Every day, break down this was great advice that I got when I was in my early 20s. I would hang out at the drama bookshop back when drama bookshops existed in Manhattan. But I would read a play there if I couldn't afford to buy it. Sometimes I would buy it if I really liked it. And study it, memorize things, work your brain. The brain memory is a muscle, and the more you work it, the better you hone it, the better you're ready for that audition because you can memorize the material, you're off book, you got ready to go. But it's all about studying. It's constantly that schedule for yourself, whether it's find an acting class. I'm still in acting class. It's always something that I did. Gave myself a community of actors to be around, but also the accountability and consistency.
Is there a specific method that you follow? Method was actually one of the words, but you didn't pick it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I studied them all. Meisner was one that
I love Meisner.
Yeah. It's repetition. It's listening. You say something and they repeat it back to you and you repeat it back. It is just about listening to their inflection, their tone, and I think really what is in between the dialogue, which in my mind makes for a great actor, and watching great actors and watching classic films and directors. That is the work. I say all the time, people are like, oh, being on set is so hard. I'm like, what? Yes, it's strenuous. You're working, 17 hours a day. It's laborious for sure, but I would not call that work. Mm-hmm. What is work for me is when I'm not working. It is, again, the consistency of, holding myself accountable every single day and auditioning constantly. That's the work. Yeah,
and honestly keeping your instrument intact.
Yes, yeah.
And keeping it sharp and on the cutting edge so that, like, to your point, when the opportunity does arise, you're ready for it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So if your life had a tagline, what would it be?
I feel like I've thought about this before.
Come on, give us your tagline.
My tagline is, I would have to go back to my favorite quote is like, you're not limited by your resources, but your lack of resourcefulness. And I just feel like I am I believe to be a resourceful, passionate person. And where there's a will, there's a way.
Agreed.
And I think that is, maybe that would be my bumper sticker.
Where there's a will, there's a way. Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. Go after that thing with tenacity.
Man, I got to take my own advice sometimes.
Yeah, seriously. Don't worry. I'm going to make you listen to this.
Yeah. But I do think that. Whether it's like for work, personal growth, relationships, whatever it is, like your belief, your will, your desire, and mixed with hard work, of course, you'll get it.
Thanks so much for tuning in, gamers, to Is It Game podcast. Of course, subscribe to isitgame.substack.com for bonus and exclusive content. We're seriously doing a lot of fun things over there in between episodes, including complimentary one-on-one 15-minute sessions with me once a week for one Substack subscriber. So get involved and also follow Is It Game podcast on Instagram and TikTok.